I think it depends on what type of book it is. It can be like a prose or poetry or philosophical or fiction, non-fiction. But the most important thing is that the book really is capable of swallowing you or something. When you read the book, you don't have any notion of time, I think. And when a book succeeds, or the author or the illustrator succeeds in that purpose of forgetting everything around you, I think it's a good book. Young readers, I think it's very important to call on their fantasy. Because when we grow old, it's an aspect that sometimes, well, you work, you get a life, and you're bounded by rules and a certain system and structure. And I think it's important for young ones, but also older people, to keep the fantasy alive and, yes, to make them dream, to make them make plans, and to be able to escape from reality or something, yes. No, well, when you can have really difficult books that are only for adults, of course, because on a level of intelligence or difficult words, maybe, but I'm not really fond of thinking. I'm an illustrator too, and people often say that I'm an illustrator for children's books, but I found it a pity to put it. There are a lot of people who buy my books, and the public is also adults, so I don't think it's correct to no, especially when it involves illustrations too. It's not only for children. And then and the other way, I'm really surprised. Also, children are very open to difficult things or themes that aren't so light, or there's always some kind where you should protect the child, and that's but children can cope with a lot of things. Also, adult problems. They have a different vision or but I think these both worlds can mix very good. I have chosen Tonke Dracht. The author is Tonke Dracht, and the title of the book is On the Other Side of the Door. And I chose that book because it really changed my way of reading. I used to read very small books with a lot of illustrations, not many texts. And she put me on another level of thinking. It was, it's about a boy who discovers another world behind the door, where time stands still, and yeah, she also made collages. It's very interesting about Tonke Dracht that she is as an illustrator and also an author. But the illustrations were very atypical. It was like really collages, but all types of cutouts assembled together. And as a child, it was really very innovating, I think, and it fascinated me. And also the text, you have this world and like these Matryoshka dolls. You have a story and a story and a story, all those layers. And a very fascinating story, not easy to read. But, and it made me realize that, that fantasy has no boundaries at all. I think they can give me any topic at all, and I think the biggest challenge of being an illustrator is really that you have a topic, maybe you don't have a direct bond with it, but you should own it, you should go and dive into the topic and assemble information, and just like an actor dives into its character. I think it's the same for illustrating. And that's what makes it so interesting, that you have to put your mind into another matter and you make it your own, and then it becomes interesting. Then you can do with a topic whatever you want. If you become a bit master of the content, and then you can give me any topic at all to make something out of it. I think that's the most interesting part of illustrating. Yeah. I cannot do anything else, I think. And what is artistically, maybe for some people, that's very subjective, I think. What is artistically? I think one thing is for sure that I have to do, I have to work with my hands. I have to work with my hands. I really want to feel like it has a physical part, illustrating, for me. I cannot sit long for hours just drawing. I have to move, I have to do like something manual. And I have to feel the freedom also to experiment all the time, because after some time you have some techniques that you're really good at, and like little tricks, and you use them again and again, but then after a while you get stuck, and you just have to keep on trying new things and put yourself to a higher level. I think it just starts from constantly looking. I think reality is my biggest source for inspiration, just people, situations that are surrounding me. And I also look it up. I also go out and let myself be confronted with other people and situations. People that live differently, think differently than myself. I have some jobs next to illustrating where I meet, like for example in the restaurants or in butchery, or where you can. Most of the characters that I illustrated are people that exist, and they inspire me. So, well, every character I've drawn, except from the animals, from the elephants, but all the people are people that exist and that I know and that inspire me. But I give them a different character in the book, but they are, yes, existing characters. And then I also go to flea markets and that kind of stuff. I love to watch movies. It's like to say, it's also a way of illustrating like the scenes and the landscapes, and I love people. I love watching people and all the things that surround them, that give them their character. Yes, these are things that inspire me. Well, I always want to give my characters like really a good characterization by. I think that the position of the people or positions is very important. You can express a lot by just a back that is bended or a head that's a bit. So I'm really looking to draw the people in a typical way. Also the emotions, not like the cliche when you have like big emotions as sorrow, happiness. It's not like I find like a more subtle way to express those feelings. And then I also I really want to avoid also the cliches. When I have put down the character, there are still some things I want to do that are totally that doesn't rhyme, like little details. That after you have read or you know the character, I want to put little surprises in it. So the last picture book I illustrated in Belgium, it's about an old man, and he lives alone and with a dog, and he is always collecting stuff, stacking up, and but you don't know, is he alone? Does his wife has left him, or and then you can put it. It's so you can put small details in the illustrations, like for example a bra that is just in one of the stacks, and then you can make people think, why is there a bra in the when they give me a story and a deadline, it's very hard for me to let go, because when they say you have a month to make the story, I will do something, it will work. But then the same story, they say you have a year, I would, it's like the more time I get, I could fill it a year working on one story, it's no problem. But there has to be a moment that you stop and you really verpesten, you make it dead. So that's the most difficult part, because I sketch in the beginning I make a lot of sketches, and they are very spontaneous and more like rough, because I know it's not like for real, or it doesn't have, the sketches don't come in the book, and I feel very free. And then it has to be cleaned up a bit, and all the bits and pieces have to be assembled, and it gets more clean and cleaner, and that's really the part that I hate a bit, because the sketches were more lively and more spontaneous, and that's the part where we have to say, stop, you are making it worse, it's not getting, yeah, so that's the hardest part for me, yes. Oh no, that's a difficult one, because it always evolves. I have, like, when I started, I thought this and this illustrator were really good, and now I don't think so anymore. So it's constantly evolves. And an extraordinarily good publisher is a publisher that gives you carte blanche to do what you want. But of course, you have to compromise always, because they often think more commercial, and I completely understand that. So sometimes you have to be, they give you feedback and you have to adapt a little bit. As long as it's a little bit, I don't mind. But for the whole bit, you have to be free and to experiment. And you also, they have to give you the freedom to grow, because when you have one successful book and you illustrate it in a kind of way, you can't stuck in those things. You have to grow, and they should give you space to grow. That's the most important thing. I think the most important thing is to have good interaction with the public. I love it, because yeah, when you're alone working in your room, you're alone, so you don't get much feedback unless from your family or friends or something. And this festival should really be it's a good way to meet other people, as well the public, as your public that reads your books, as also other authors and illustrators, and then that you have a 4-star hotel and like taxi drive. No, that's not true. That's not important. I am very distracted. I am a very distracted person.